alleles is a version of a gene. So for one gene, there may be many different versions. And by version, I mean there'll be different DNA sequences. So if you can, call to mind those sequences we looked at for mouse fur color in the last class, and recall that the only difference in the sequence between the dark fur mice and the light fur mice was that one nucleotide difference. So that is the same gene in each mouse, but different mice have different versions of that gene, which are called alleles. What questions do you have about that? All right, well, let's answer a question about it then. All right, so recall that the phone number up there is the number you are texting to. If you haven't already saved it as a contact, that's a convenient way to do this. And your answer should contain that 4-digit code and then your answer choice, A, B, C, or D. All right, so before we look at the answers, I'd like to get a feel for your level of comfort or confidence in this question. So if you feel really good about your answer, would you raise your folder? You feel like you got this. All right, if you feel like you kind of maybe I got it. Okay, maybe. Okay, so we have a pretty good split. So this is an excellent example of a time when we can learn from each other. So I would like you to take a minute or two and talk to your group. Remember to explain the reasoning behind your answer. So explain why you thought your answer was correct and the other answers were incorrect. And make sure each of you gets a chance to sort of talk about that in your group. And then I will open it and we will vote again. Okay, and tell me why.
Well, I was thinking, like when research is done and we have like a scientific journal that's published, like the
Okay.
things that they have to do is like, put the word out there about it, and the easiest way to do that is through a press release.
Okay.
So I figured that would
Okay.
probably be a more credible source than, just an independent newspaper or a blog or something.
Okay, so you're thinking it's really about who is saying it, not what's being said.
Yeah.
All right, I want you to think about it a different way. I want you to think of yourselves as people capable of evaluating the accuracy of these statements. Don't worry about who said it. See if you think there's any difference in the accuracy of the statements themselves, which is another way to take it. Nothing you said was inaccurate,
Okay.
but I want you to take it a step further and see what you think about those ideas, okay? All right, so we still have diverse opinions. Okay, so let me hear from a few groups about what you were thinking when you answered this question. How about group 28? Can you tell me what your group talked about?
Well, we were both saying that A and B and D don't identify a variant, they just say the gene.
Okay.
And I think the variant is the important part of B that identifies it as the correct answer, because that can be a different allele. Maybe.
Okay, so you're thinking that the difference that B talks about gene variant, whereas all the other ones talk about gene without specifying different versions of it. And tell me, why is that the important part?
Because that means that it could protect against a stroke or it could not protect against a stroke, so I guess.
Okay, so she's saying that means it could protect against the stroke or not. That's a very nice description. Thank you for sharing. So I heard a lot of good discussion as I walked around, so thank you for taking the time to talk about that. Here are kind of the two ideas. So that's one idea that I heard. The other idea that I heard was really looking at who said it and considering kind of which source should we think of as credible and which source might be less credible. And it seemed that people were thinking that C sounded like the most credible source. And I applaud you for considering source. That's certainly important when we're thinking about scientific information. Where is it coming from? Do we think that they have any special training or expertise that would help them be knowledgeable about this topic? So I agree, that's worth considering. But I think the more important idea here is the one that Group 28 identified. And so one thing I hope that you will feel comfortable with by the end of this course is thinking of yourselves as someone with some expertise in biology, and so you can, it's not that we want to disregard the source as something important, but that you can take some ownership of thinking like, well, do I think that's accurate? Because I know something about this. We'll work toward that. What questions do you have about that? Yes?
So I was also paying attention to the source, and
Okay.
why would you trust something that's just from a blog that's not even like a scientific blog that says help me out DOC?
Okay, so
Why
she's
would you
asking,
even trust
why
that?
would I even trust something? And so I would say, so if you were looking up something you knew nothing about, that probably wouldn't be a good place to start, right? Because you don't necessarily know who's writing that. You might want to start with a government website or a university website. But if it is something you know about, then you can think about whether that seems to be accurate or not. And then if you were really interested in learning about that gene in particular, you might read that article and then other articles as well and compare them and say, oh, well, it turns out that blog's actually like pretty good, that everything they said seems to align with everything I read and everything I already know.
So the point here is that like press releases aren't very reliable, kind of, is what you were
That
saying.
press releases aren't what now?
Very
Sorry.
reliable.
Very reliable? No, I wouldn't say that. I would say you have to take things in the media and think about them yourself. So think about whether that aligns with what you know about the topic. And if you don't know about the topic, you might want to read up a little more rather than sort of accepting one story.